Hello, everybody. So, after a long, hard day, um, working, pressure washing on the top of a 36-foot ladder, this is a typical. This is one of the more complex suppers I usually make. Usually, I stick to three things or less, but right now, let's see if I can show you this. You can see. Okay, so we have cauliflower, we have yellow flesh potatoes, we have a winter squash, which is very sweet. We have eggplant, we have carrots, and we have even three tomatoes or so. And we have bell peppers too. There's a bell pepper. There's actually four of them here, small little ones. You might be wondering, why am I showing you a meal like this? Now, you might say this is a lot, but for an active person, this is a proper meal. This is a good meal. Um, unless you want to need to, yeah, unless you want to create the need for supplements or something like that. This is pretty much, I don't know, 2 kilos of food after you take all the airspace and stuff. You know. So let's talk about it though. Why, as a raw vegan, would you be showing people this kind of a meal? Well, this is lightly cooked. The difference between most cooked food is heavily cooked. This is cooked for maybe 10 to 12 minutes. That's it, 10 to 12 minutes. So we have 10 to 12 minutes cooking, minimal. It's almost like blanching it, maybe a little extended blanching. It's whole food, which is big benefit. Nutritionally, that's a big benefit. It has lots of fiber because I haven't cooked it to death, and I haven't. Basically, it's all plant foods. No growth hormones, no salt, no oils, no spices, no junk on the side, no vinegar, no whatever, like coffee, alcohol, nothing like that. You hydrate before you eat the meal because yes, this is cooked meal and it will not hydrate you pretty much. This is neutral or slightly negative. So what will happen? My computer is off tilt a little bit. Level it off. I don't like videos that are a little bit. So you've got a lot of nutrition here. You have your tomatoes, this, and this is much better than what most people are eating. You have to consider when you're eating that a lot of the times you're creating counter nutrition. So, for example, when you create too much food combination, and this is pretty much is bordering on too much food combination, but a lot of people create all kinds of havoc. They're drinking with their meals. They're drinking toxic substances, like Coke and Pepsi and basically pops and wine and coffee and concentrated juices. All that kind of stuff is nonsense. And they're putting salt and spices and all kinds of stuff. If you have mild spices or whatever, okay. But other than that, no. Now, this is important. You need to have this in your knowledge because this will keep you healthy. That processed, refined, most vegan food out there in the stores and in the packages is junk. It's garbage. This is whole food or almost whole food. Whole food is basically fresh. You're not cooking it. But say that this is almost whole food and it is plant food, so it has basically the whole spectrum of nutrients. And yeah, it's lots of carbs here, so you're carbing up. During right, I like to say the F word between the carb the F up, And anyways, this is a typical meal for me. when I do cooked meals, that's all I do. Is I don't turn it into a mush. You want you want some resistance. Okay, so say this is a potato. I did a potato. You want some resistance, and you want to put a pound or two in it. You don't want to make it a mush. You want to make it so it's soft, but not too soft, like still firm. So like not crunchy, but firm. No growth hormones in here. No MSG. There's minimal pesticides and herbicides. What else can I say? When you want to make a cheap meal, you can use this. If you live in a place where fruit is expensive or where the fruit is lousy quality, or where the fruit might be okay quality, but it just doesn't have enough carbohydrates because it's a lot of tomatoes and veggie, like a lot of tomatoes and like lettuce and cucumbers and stuff that doesn't have too much calories, like winter apples or most apples, anyways. And it would be quite hard to get a full satiation. Like when I have a meal, you might, during night I had a good point here, like, I didn't think of it in that respect, but it's usually 1,000 calories. That's a meal. Anything significantly less than 1,000 calories, unless you're a small person, say if you're like 100 pound woman or 100 pound man, then yeah, maybe you should put your sights at more like 700 calories or 600 calories. But unless I get 1,000 calories, I can't really work that well because in a typical day I need 3,000 calories to work hard, and so that's 3 meals of 1,000 calories, and I get it either from fruits or this way. Personally, I don't like to pay more than $5 to $10 per meal. I know Durian Rider likes to spend like 20, 30, $40 per meal. Um, that doesn't work for me because that's not duplicatable for most of the world. Most of the world lives on $2. Half the world lives on $2 a day or less. So how can you have one meal that costs $30, like what he explains? It's doesn't make much sense. But a meal like this is perhaps $4 or $5. All of this food. So yeah, and it's nice to have a variety sometimes, but also it's nice to have simplicity. Sometimes I just make rice with potatoes and say whatever else, maybe some carrots or some cauliflower or some whatever I have, doesn't matter. Because rice already has the carbohydrates. Potatoes even more, it's just more carbohydrates and it's more flavor. And then you add something more juicy. Like I like to add a lot of the times, like these bell peppers. Where is one? This makes a good addition to rice. It has more juiciness and it just works well. So hopefully you don't think that you just have to eat raw. I know there's some people out there that just say you have to eat just raw. But you know what? When I started eating this way, 1 meal a day or sometimes 2 meals a day, depending, I have usually 3 meals plus or minus, sometimes 4 when I'm working hard or when the meals are smaller quantity or when the meals are low in calories, then I have more. So if you live in a place that has no fruit, no problem. If you have to eat the whole winter this way, you'd be way better off than eating the junk most people eat. and drinking the junk most people eat. Way, way better off. Now, that's not to say that what I advocate most people is to skip the winter altogether and go down south where there are fruits, where there are wonderful, sweet, carbohydrate-rich foods. If you want to join me, I always skip winters. So every year you can come and you can have a nice time. It's either usually Mexico, Costa Rica, or Panama. We could go to other places too, but those are the ones I so far went to for extended trips. I was in other places, but for shorter, like a week or less. No, I was in Hawaii for a few weeks, but anyways, I wanted to show you this meal. So this is important to know. This is important to know. You can still cook. You can still cook and have very clean, very good food. The gurus, some gurus will tell you raw food, only raw food, only raw food. Well, yeah, raw food has the least toxicity and most nutrition. Nobody can dispute that. Absolutely nobody, right? Unless they're cuckoo. But you can still get massive nutrition with, I would say, minimal toxicity caused by the minor cooking. And this is what it looks like. So I wouldn't give up if you don't have the expensive fruit, the money for expensive fruit, or the desire to ripen your food all the time, make sure that it's always ripe. No problem. Have potatoes, have some rice, have some veggies in your fridge, and whenever there's no ripe food, or whenever you feel like having some cooked food that's still healthy, this in my class is still healthy. Anybody that says that this is not healthy is kind of pushing their limit on being crazy or whatever. Because we live in such a world where our air quality is so poor. That doesn't matter if you have a perfect 10 out of 10, 10.000 out of 10 nutrition. If you're living in most parts of the world where air quality is questionable, then your weakest link is going to be your air quality anyways. Sure, we shouldn't add more to it, but you know, what I'm trying to say is that this is still pretty damn good. This is like 8 or, yeah, this is about an 8 out of 10. I would consider it. And it is a bit of a Richter scale, so 9 is much more healthier. Would be much simpler meal, or fruits and vegetables that are more fresh, more raw, more whole. This is almost whole food. It's very whole, almost, but you know, nothing is like a mango or a papaya meal. But we're not used to that psychologically. We're not used to that, but we are used to eating cooked food. So why not cook less? Cook much less for much more health, much more nutrition, and most importantly, less toxemia. Because the more you cook, the more you destroy the food and the more you create all kinds of toxins. There was a scientist that was defending GMO food, and he was saying when you cook food, you're creating the same as GMO food, right? Well, that is true. You're creating all kinds of new compounds. Look, you're breaking down the fiber, which is one of the strongest substances in the food. So you're breaking down a lot of other stuff too. So take it with a lot of care. Like, don't be overcooking. Okay, I'm gonna have to let you go soon. But the last point I wanted to say is that when I started in this way, I went from 155 pounds to about 185 pounds. So there is something in there that I still haven't put my foot on and grasped it. Like, why did I gain 20, 30 pounds, 25 pounds